Welcome once again, faithful brethren of the collective of FEMA. I, your guide in all you do, Lord Helitron, come to you on this first day of the 8th week of the year 279 Ordo ad Chaos, to instruct your further into greater understanding of our lineage. As stated to you previously, in the earliest days of the before time, before the sub-age of Anno Domini, a nation rose that was the first of the deceitful covenant of nations, known in that day as Israel. It was told in the forbidden scriptures that this nation was made up of wayward sons and daughters of the second son of the old covenant, known as Shem. This nation was, by design, meant to be without a king or dictatorial authority, for the covenant of nations decreed that law was not in the man or the institution, but in word and law handed down and applied to all of mankind. Thus it was diametrically opposed to what we, the liberators who have brought about a subjective, controlled new order decreed by the truly excellent among your lowly species. It must be perfectly understood that it was not merely the fact that the Israelis lived by such an absurd system that makes it dangerous, but that all who live under such systems are prone to speak of it to other nations, further perpetuating this blasphemous concept of law and a mode of life independent of human opinion and magisterial decree. The Israelis, believing themselves to be blessed by some sort of unobservable teapot circling the earth, a flying spaghetti monster, or a bearded man hurling lightning bolts, went around the world, preaching to tribes and civilizations about this primitive, backward concept of a god, and a law that all could prosper under. Like all people, though at first they held true to their wholly invented system, found themselves going astray from it. They believed it to be attributed to a fallen nature to their own being, but we know it to be a reflection to the unnatural nature of trying to organize humans into a society without a firm, dictatorial hand. In spite of the failings and the impending destruction of this nation, its citizens made many missions into other lands, preaching their ways of worship and living. Many of these peoples who heard these teachings would come to form their own religions based upon it, often distorting the original form, but retaining a similar concept of an incorporeal God and afterlife, and a prophecy of a coming Savior. Indeed, the most pivotal point of the entire covenant came to rest of the coming of a single person. Many were believed to be this person, this so-called Messiah, but none had such an impact as the one born near to the beginning of the age of Anno Domini. Though he would be killed by the kingdom that birthed him, by the hands of the largest of all the other kingdoms that he claimed to be saving, his word endured, and his followers grew. But as with all transfers of knowledge, much was lost from its original meaning when preachings were heard and retold, due to the subjective nature of mankind. Just as the prophecy and theology of the Israelites were corrupted by nuances in language and opinionated interpretation, forming a plethora of world religions born of a singular idea, so too did the teachings of this self-described Messiah become corrupted by private interpretation, and schism reigned in spite of a general unity in belief. It was because of these schisms that we, the destroyers of covenants and the bringers of true order, were able to discredit the original religion and its resulting covenant of nations. Some in the early days of the newer covenant saw the weaknesses presented by heretical and political schisms, but lacked the historical knowledge necessary to foresee their strongest opponent, striking at the heart of their order through the ignorance of the masses. Many would attack the covenant of nations through the lack of knowledge of philosophy amongst the multitudes. Most notable among these was Lord Bertrand Russell the Learned, and the raving Saint Nietzsche. But one would rise to the task in a far greater and more direct way, the most venerable and illuminated of them all, Madame Blavatsky of the Hidden Light. It was she who manipulated similarities between true religion and counterfeit religion, in order to destroy both. It was she who inspired distrust in anything sacred or holy, by rendering occultic magic use with any practice of faith. It was she who put forth ideas that would even divide the most scrutinous of truth seekers. It was she who exposed religion for the mockery of good sense that it was, and instilled revulsion to it in all who began to doubt the strength of an already weakened institution. In time, religion would falter in all the multitudes who once believed, save those who would fight a losing war against the hidden power. Even the counterfeit religions, who still retained fragments of the old lore, would fall down, and be forgotten as a pursuit of any meaning. But still, the fact that any semblance of this way of thinking could still exist threatens the paradise that all have come to know in the age of ordo et chaos. To you, loyal subjects and workers of FEMA, I say work harder still than ever before. For though the savages of the wilderness, the last keepers of the covenant of nations, are few and scattered, we will need your sweat to continue our campaign and defense against them. Toil, my drones, make haste and bring forth more energy to the power plant and more weapons to the stockyards, for our enemies are always at the gates and border of Helios 54.